Hey everyone, thank you for attending this year's Intern Sharing Day. We'll be giving you all the inside scoop on open government products internships today. My name is Chloe, a fellow marketing and outreach intern here at OGP, and I will be your moderator for this event. For today's lineup, our product design interns, Stacey and Audrey, will be giving you the rundown. Wrapping the full-timers, we have our senior product designer, Pearly, and product designer, Natalie. They're amazing folks, so I hope you're looking forward to it. We will have a Q&A session at the end. You can scan this QR code here or go to this link. That's go.gov.sg/PDOGP. Feel free to enter questions at any point, and you can also upvote questions that you think are interesting. With that being said, let's give you the inside scoop you're waiting for. Stacey, take it away.
Hi, I'm Stacey, a fellow intern on the design team. Before we dive into the internship sharing, I'll share a bit more about open government products. So we are a division within GovTech, but by nature, we are experimental. So we have the benefit of being able to bypass some bureaucratic hurdles and can move a bit faster. So most of our projects come from ground up, many of them from our annual hackathon in January. So if you've used the recent CDC vouchers, then you know Redeem SG is the team behind it. If you ever sign up for vaccination, then you probably fill in a FormSG form. If you're vaccinated, then you've probably used our COVID vax appointment system, or our most famous product, which is Parking.sg, which has replaced paper coupons for most people. So we can talk more about the organization later if anyone has any specific questions. So far for this year, we've had 2 product design interns on the team, Audrey and I. We've both been here since February. We'll share more about ourselves later on. So we have 8 product designers on the team, and we are all end-to-end designers. We also have a UX writer, design manager, and then there's Audrey and I, design interns. So on any given day, we could be working on research, facilitating workshops, working on design systems, synthesizing research, or working out the interactions of a flow, etc. So let's now dive deeper into what we have done as interns in our time here. So I'm Stacey. I graduated from NUS CNM in December 2021 and have been interning with OGP for 6 months now. I actually switched from marketing to product design at the beginning of year 4. So prior to OGP, I did another product design internship at a business consultancy firm. I was first introduced to OGP by a friend. So I did my research and found the products that OGP built to be very meaningful and inspiring. And reflecting on my own experience using the vaccination portal, I thought this was the place to learn about product design. So one of the key projects that I worked on was ScamShield. ScamShield is an iOS app that blocks and detects scam SMSs and phone calls. So this is how the app looks like. So where was ScamShield when I joined the team? Scams were on the rise and have been on the rise every year actually. So after the OCBC phishing scams, there was a clear need to do something. So we needed to reassess ScamShield as a solution and understand how citizens on the ground deal with scams. To do this, we conducted some exploratory research to understand how users deal with scams. We sent out an initial survey to participants in our OpenGeo platform and friends and family as well to get a general sensing on how Singaporeans dealt with scams. After that, we conducted further user interviews to understand deeper on the motivations behind participants' actions and behaviors and their perception of scams. So all this quantitative and qualitative data that we uncovered actually went towards influencing product direction down the road. So let me just share some of the findings that have impacted our strategy. So we found that users were able to identify low-level scams, meaning they looked out for spelling errors, +65, automated voices, etc. to identify scams. So another common way of identification was to Google if something was a scam or not. So when users Google if something was a scam or not, they generally trusted crowdsourced information. So the places that they turn to are usually Reddit or forums to arrive at an answer. And also we found that reporting levels were pretty low, and convenience and awareness were factors behind these low rates. So all our findings pointed us towards a different direction for ScamShield. We needed a more holistic approach as scams evolved. So ScamShield 2.0 was born and was focused on a community-driven approach to tackling scams. So there were a couple of solutions in ScamShield 2.0 that we're building now. So we have the scam checker, the ScamShield Telegram and WhatsApp bot, as well as the SPF dashboard. So all these different products are somewhat connected with each other. So the scam checker is a site that users can go to check if something is a scam. So what you see on the screen is how we made use of crowdsourcing in our strategy. When the user searches a scam, this is a possible result that they can get. So we tell users how many other users have reported the content that they are checking. So there were various ways for us to get crowdsourced data, and one of it was through the ScamShield Telegram and WhatsApp bots. So one of the things I took charge of was the ScamShield Telegram bot. So this bot helps you to check if something is a scam and also allows you to report a scam. My work here involved conceptualizing the flow for the bot and working really closely with our UX writer, Shanti, to come up with a copy to reflect an appropriate tone. So after conceptualizing the flow, I led guerrilla user tests for the Telegram bot with a couple of users to get feedback and further iterate on the flow. So there's also a WhatsApp version of this bot in production, which I'm handling as well. This bot allows members of public to report scams within 3 minutes. So how this ties in with our strategy is that it makes it quick and convenient to report, so we can encourage reporting and also get more crowdsourced data on scams that are running on the ground. So another one of the major things that I worked on was the SPF dashboard. This dashboard is used by police and is the place where reports from our bots and the ScamShield app go to. So there were a lot of usability issues with the dashboard, and we needed to fix them to handle the influx of reports that will come in when we launch our reporting channels. So fixing this would help the police officers in sifting and eyeballing reports that come in. So in turn, this translates to ScamShield being able to block more scams for users. So the designers mapped out a flow that the officers would take, and we split up the work. So the dashboard was a very complicated workflow, and I had to work really closely with the other designers on the team. This is one of the explorations that I did for one of the screens. It constitutes part of the flow. Yeah. So this is what it evolved to. And then this was what the final screen looked like and the one we tested. So after coming up with screens, we concept tested with the officers who used the dashboard. So there were 2 officers, so we split up into groups, and I got to lead one of them through the concept test. So basically, I showed them some of the screens and then asked for their feedback as well. So after that session, we iterated more, and then we incorporated some of the feedback that they gave us. And we actually recently just ran our 2nd round of concept testing on Friday. Yeah. So what I've spoken about here is a very condensed version of what actually went down in this project. So I found this project very exciting and challenging. So if you'd like to know more about it, you can reach out to me. Okay, now we'll be moving on to Forms, which is another product that I worked on in OGP. So Forms is a form builder, especially for public officers. So data collected by the government can be sensitive, so we need our own form builder. You can think of Forms as the Google Forms of our government. So this is what a form that is built by Forms looks like. So many agencies use Forms to collect data, so everyone here would probably have filled in a form built by Forms before. So when I first came into the team, they were going through a major redesign. So one of the things we had to do was to inform users of the major changes to the interface. So I worked on an announcement model to convey that to users. So I had the chance to create some fun animations for the model using this software that I found called Jitter. So this is the model that I created. Creating this was very fun for me as it challenged my visual design skills, which is something I felt that is very useful to have as a product designer. Another thing I had the chance to do was design an entire page for Forms. So I paired with Pearly to explore and design the new thank you page. So this page was what respondents would see when they submit a form. So this was one of the first few things that I designed that got implemented. So it felt great seeing my work get implemented so early on into my internship. I also had the chance to participate in reviewing UI after the engineers have developed components or pages. So I still remember reviewing my first component and feeling pretty nervous about whether I checked if everything was pixel perfect or not. Yeah. In the Forms team, we don't do UI reviews the traditional way. We use a tool called Chromatic to help speed up the process. So designers can leave feedback on the designs directly for the engineers. So this is way faster and less tedious than the traditional way of having to screenshot and compile a deck full of errors. Yeah. So being involved in reviewing UI actually helped me to become more meticulous when it comes to checking designs, and also helped me to work closely with the engineers on the team to rectify some of these mistakes that I pointed out. While creating pages for forms, there was also instances of working with the design system. So prior to my internship here, I've only heard of the term design system, but haven't had the chance to actually delve into it. So OGP was where I learned how to utilize the design system, see the benefits of it, and actually contribute components to it. So the design system is used across about like 10-ish products in OGP. So it's pretty interesting to be able to contribute components to it. So that's all for me. There's a lot of the nitty-gritty that I've left out for this sharing. So the work that I mentioned here is a very summarized version of the actual work I've done. You're welcome to reach out to me if you'd like to know more about the work I did. So now Audrey will be sharing with you guys her experience at OGP.
Yeah, hi, I'm Audrey. I'm also a product design intern at OGP. So I graduated from Singapore University of Technology and Design with a degree in architecture a few years ago. So I used to work in architecture firms prior to OGP. I transitioned to product design just last year. Yeah, I applied to OGP because I learned about the products that OGP built, such as Parking.sg, the vaccination app, and Redeem.sg app, and was interested to learn more from the team. So I've been an intern here since February this year, and my RO is Natalie. We work closely on two products, Isomer and CheckWho, and today I'll be sharing more about Isomer. So Isomer is the main product I'm working on at OGP. It's an easy-to-deploy website builder that enables government officers to create usable, secure websites quickly. So think of it as a Wix or Squarespace for the government. So these are some examples of websites created with Isomer. go.gov.sg was set up in just a number of days to disseminate COVID-related information. And recently, NDP, if you had balloted for tickets, you might have come across the NDP site. So one of the major work streams this year is to integrate the approval flow into Isomer, and I'll be sharing more about that in detail. So what's the approval flow? So right now, when someone makes an edit on their site on Isomer, they need to submit their content to another team member for approval before the changes can go live on their site. So this is done to provide a security layer to ensure that content is thoroughly checked through before they are released for public consumption. Currently, the approval process is not a native feature within Isomer. It is held on an external platform called GitHub. So when users are ready to submit their content for approval, they will click on a button on Isomer and then they will be directed to GitHub on a separate window. So users have to jump from one platform to another, which is not an ideal user experience. We wanted to then find a way to move the process entirely onto Isomer to improve the user experience. To learn more about our users' internal processes and how they go about approval, we reached out to users from government agencies who are Isomer users and conducted in-depth interviews with them. We wanted to better understand the how and why behind their publishing and reviewing processes. After the interviews, we collated the interview summaries, mapped out each agency's workflow, and drew insights from these qualitative data. The interviews and synthesis actually took us about 4 weeks to complete. It was quite an extensive research. We had a lot of qualitative input from users that was extremely useful. I won't be diving too deep into the problem and specific insights, but I will be sharing more about the processes and methods that we adopted along the way. So after the research synthesis, we then identified some key actionable insights, which we then used to help frame the problem using the How Might Read framework. This then kickstarted our design phase. So with the problem statements, we ran a design workshop with our team. In this workshop, we brainstormed flows and features together with the Isomer team, which consists of software engineers, product managers, and product ops specialists. And with this pool of great ideas from the design workshop, Natalie and I started wireframing some concepts on paper first. Once we were firm on the ideas, we then built low-fidelity wireframes on Figma using the OGP design system that Stacey shared about earlier, which is a library of components used across the product suite. So we could do it really quickly because elements like buttons and input fields were already built. We don't have to design them from scratch. And we made interactive prototypes to see how the screens flow from one to another. Once we were done with the prototype, we reached out to Isomer users for concept testing. We wanted to get a quick sensing of what users like from each concept and find out more about their mental model. So this is the general flow of screens. Yeah, so there were several concepts that we introduced, one of which is the site dashboard, which is an integral part of the approval process. As reviewers are not familiar with Isomer, the dashboard serves as a critical pivot point to introduce them to the interface. So I will share more about how concept testing has influenced our design decisions for the dashboard. So this is the very first site dashboard that we showed during the concept testing. So users appreciated the concept of a dashboard, but it wasn't clear to many that this was a dashboard, as many things aren't apparent at first sight. Users also gave feedback that the functions are familiar, but are not necessarily what they need. For example, they mentioned that they don't usually edit site settings, so they don't think it needs to be prioritized on the dashboard as they won't actively access it. With their feedback from concept testing, we performed several rounds of iterations. And to make the dashboard clearer to users, we created more hierarchy to the information displayed. So for this iteration, we placed the active elements on the left column and more passive elements on the right. We also gave more real estate to the active elements as users would have more interaction with these items. And also to ensure that the components are scalable, we use input from actual users, like how the long titles truncate. We chose a middle truncate because we noticed that the ends of the titles are usually where users would indicate important information such as version numbers or time. And we are also ensuring that the dashboard is scalable for features in the future, such as site analytics. We designed it with the intention that it would scale. Yeah, and that's about it for Isomer. Yeah, so other than integrating the approval flow, what we are also working on for Isomer is a UI refresh. So we are essentially replacing all the UI elements with new components from the design system that we are developing. Beyond just reskinning the interface, we are also addressing some usability issues that were identified earlier. So for example, this is the editing workspace. We received feedback that it wasn't very intuitive as there wasn't any clear hierarchy within the sections. Previously, the create album and upload image buttons were side by side. It wasn't clear to the users where the new image or album would end up at. So we moved the action buttons within each section instead for clearer hierarchy. And we also use repetitive layout, so it's easier for our engineers to implement. As we work on the UI refresh using components from our design system, we also realized that we were missing some of them. Yeah, so then we built new responsive components that were not in the design system, and we ensured that they were scalable to adapt to multiple devices and displays. Yeah, and that's about all the work that I've done for Isomer. If you are interested to know more, please feel free to reach out to me.
All right, thank you, Stacey and Audrey. Really appreciate how super in-depth both of you went, from research to testing and iterating on your designs. Really awesome work that you guys should be proud of. So once again, if you have any questions, you can use the link or QR code shown on the screen to ask them. Now, I want to ask a little bit about your shared experiences as a design intern in OGP before we take questions from the floor. So feel free to chime in at any time. So Stacey, you talked briefly in the beginning about the design team in OGP. So perhaps could you go into detail about what the design culture is like here? So yeah, Stacey.
The design culture is very collaborative and open for sure. So you get to work very closely with your RO and other designers on the team as well. So there's a lot of like pair designing that goes on in the design team. Like for the thank you page that I showed just now, there was actually a lot of pair work with Audrey. So you also get to work collaboratively with other designers that aren't on your product during design open door sessions or like design sessions that we have weekly. It is also very collaborative cross functions. So there were many instances of working closely with engineers to see if my design was feasible or get their thoughts on like what was the most feasible way engineering wise. So like the ScamShield and WhatsApp bot, I was working closely to develop it with a fellow intern. So I would say that another part of our culture is doing end-to-end design work as well. So from the work I presented, it could really range from research all the way to implementation. It sounds pretty intimidating, but I promise it's fun and actually exposes you to the entire process and helps you identify your strengths and weaknesses.
Agreed, especially about working cross-functionally. Like even as a marketing intern, I got to work with you and the product design team on projects. So what about you, Audrey?
Yeah, just want to add on to Stacey's points. Although we are all in different product teams, we don't work in silos. So we have a design session with the designers every week. So if we have topics we want to discuss, we can bring it up during the session and get everyone's feedback. So for example, like if I needed help with like Isomer's dashboard screens, I could just bring it up during the session, and then we'll all discuss and collaborate on FigJam, which is a virtual whiteboard during the session. And then if we don't have a specific topic to talk about that day, sometimes we just like play games together. Yeah, and we also have design open door sessions with our more experienced designers. So we will consult them to get feedback on our work.
Oh, that's really great, like how tight-knit the whole design team is. I think providing a constant feedback loop and opportunity for mentorship is very useful for interns. So, okay, this is a really great lead into my next question, which is how does a product design intern work with the team? So maybe you can give a bit of insight into your experiences with your internship program. So maybe Stacey can start first.
As a product design intern in OGP, you're basically treated like a full-timer. So you have responsibility to deliver, but of course, like you also get mentorship. Yeah, so I personally don't like to be handheld every single step of the way. So what Pearly and I worked out is that we will usually split the work and then come back together to give each other feedback. So along the way, like while I'm doing my task, if I have any doubts or questions, I can just check back with her at the end of the day, or actually like whenever. Yeah. So as an intern, you also get to pursue things that you want to learn. So one really great thing about the intern program here is that your RO is genuinely concerned about your growth and helps you move towards achieving it. So if I wanted to work more on research, I could just let Pearly know, and then we can like work out a way to make sure I achieve that and get more exposure in that area. Yeah. And you are actually always constantly learning. So what I admire about the design team at OGP is that they're super passionate about what they do here and about design in general. So there's a lot of things that I can learn from different people on the team. So be it like visual design, branding, product design, or just like handling data, there's someone for like every one of those topics. Yeah.
So is this something that resonates with you, Audrey?
Yeah, definitely. Like Stacey mentioned, interns are treated like full-timers in OGP. So we get to work on all moving parts of the projects, and we play significant roles in the development of a product. So with my RO-net, we would usually split our work and then also come back together to discuss, just like Stacey and Pearly. Yeah, we give each other feedback and we work more like peers. Yeah, we also work closely with our teammates from the product engineering team. So if you join us, you get to collaborate with them, and you definitely get to learn more about the ops and technical side of things. Yeah, and also to add on, our ROs also, they always want us to grow and succeed. So if there's anything I would like to work on, I can let Nat know. Just recently, like I wanted to work on survey research that's coming out in the next few months. Yeah, so I just let Nat know, and then she just let me do the work.
It's really awesome to see that both of you are super comfortable with approaching your reporting officers when you want to learn something. And as an intern with full-timer treatment, is there any pressure of choosing between learning and work responsibilities?
I wouldn't say there's much pressure. Learning is something that we really value and emphasize here in OGP. So we actually have Learning Fridays where we are given time to learn about topics we're interested in. So personally, I dedicated time to learn some basics of software engineering, so I could facilitate the design communication and hand off better with the engineers. So it's something that benefits not just me, but my team. And yeah, in the long run, it helps with our own workflows. Yeah, so yeah, there's not much pressure to like balance between the both.
Thank you. So, okay, this one is a very hot question. So both of you started out in very different industries. So Audrey, you were in architecture, right? So how do you manage to transition successfully from another industry into product design?
Yeah, so yeah, I previously worked in architecture. So when I was working in my previous job, I spent a lot of time after work learning about product design. So I watched many YouTube videos, and then eventually I took the Google UX course on Coursera to learn the fundamentals of UX design. Then after that, I worked on a couple of self-initiated projects, applying the methods I learned from the course, and then documented them in my portfolio, which I then used to apply to OGP. Yeah, I also received a lot of help from mentors from ADP List. It's a free mentorship platform for designers. So through the one-to-one sessions with them, they shared their feedback on my resume and portfolio, and also gave me advice on how I can transition to UX design. Yeah, so if you are looking to transition from another field, yeah, don't downplay your past experiences. Your soft skills are very valuable and relevant.
So what soft skills do you think helped?
Yeah, communication is definitely one of them. So even though I'm now working in a totally different domain, right? So being able to communicate effectively is still one of the key transferable skills I've gained from my past years of working experience. So for example, like how I used to communicate designs to building contractors, now I'm using these skills to facilitate the handoff of screen designs to our software engineers.
Very good. So Stacey, you were in a communications degree like me. So why and how did this change happen for you?
Okay, so prior to product design, yes, I was in marketing. But for me, I always had the inkling that I wanted to do something design related, but I was just a bit afraid to pursue it because I didn't think I was creative enough or like had enough visual sense. So like to help myself like open up to that, I selected modules in NUS that were really centered on design and like producing practical work at the end of it. Yeah. So I knew I wanted to get into product design when I took up a course by Spark Academy called Introduction to UI UX. So this was what opened my eyes to the product design process. And this happened at the beginning of year 4. So summer of year 4, I was searching for a product design internship and it was not easy, but thankfully I actually managed to secure one. So I think transiting successfully doesn't just stop when you attain an internship. So there's always new things to learn and skills to improve on and stuff that you don't know. So personally, what I did to practice product design was to also extend my school project. So going one step further, creating like more high fidelity screens, exploring more screens. So also like reading up on product design, following product design Instagram accounts. So there's actually a lot of resources out there and a lot of product designers around the world to learn from. Yeah.
So the key to transitioning from one industry to another is sort of the initiative to just start learning something new through like resources at your disposal. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So what are your biggest takeaways from these internships, Stacey?
Okay, so one of the most important ones is that meaningful interactions don't need to be fancy. So in OGP, we place a lot of emphasis on users. After all, like our products are used by a diverse group of people. So our designs, like they're not fancy, but more importantly, they should allow users to achieve what they need to achieve. So of all the products that I see here in OGP, they have a very clean design and all elements come together to give users a very pleasant user experience and allows them to do like what they need to do. So there are no like fancy transitions or interactions that don't actually serve a purpose. Yeah.
Can sort of tell that from the way the slides are designed as well. So it's not all fluff, you know, like everything you do does contribute to an overall user experience. So what about you, Audrey?
Yeah, so my biggest takeaway is that testing early is really beneficial to the development of a product. So it challenges our assumptions about users, and getting early feedback can save us lots of time and effort. Having actual users validate our designs has been really useful in the whole process for Isomer especially. So it was something I didn't experience when I was working on my personal projects. So I was guilty of taking the UI too far before I tested the concepts. So like by the time I received user feedback, it felt like I had done a lot of work that wasn't needed because some features weren't even necessary. Yeah, so over here, seeing how early concept testing has helped to shape products here in OGP, it just really showed how valuable it is to get feedback early, and it will be something that I will practice moving forward.
Thank you so much, Audrey. Okay, after all that talk, I'm sure you're curious. How does one get into OGP? So what qualities do you look out for? When are you hiring? All that kind of good stuff. So I think this might be best answered by a full-timer. So Pearly, you might want to take this question.
Yep. Hi. Hey everyone, I'm Pearly. I'm a product designer on the team, and I'm quite involved in recruitment, so I thought I'll give some background into how we hire for interns and what to expect from an internship here as well. I'm also happy to take questions after if I haven't answered any of them. Okay, so what we look for in internship application. The first thing that you need is a portfolio. So a portfolio to showcase like some case study that you did. So we're not expecting you to have a lot of experience. So it could be a personal project, a school project, or like a volunteer project. So just something that you're proud of, something that shows us how you approach problems. So if you could show off some parts of the design process, like research, synthesis, wireframing, prototyping, that would be great. And something else that we look out for is a good visual sense. Because, okay, so as product designers, we care about more than visuals. It's a much larger scope than that. But a good visual sense does matter, is a big part of it. And we require that even of our interns, because an internship, it lasts maybe like 4 to 6 months. So to maximize that time spent together, this is a really important prerequisite. And it's the same for knowing how to use Figma. It will just speed your learning up along that 4 to 6 months. Okay, so I'll talk about what you don't need. So a formal design education is like nobody really studies product design anyway. I think a lot of us come from different backgrounds, and personal work, it matters much more than formal education or experience in the industry. And if you're out of school, we don't expect you to have experience anyway. And coding experience is a really nice to have, but we are very much not expecting that from an intern. Okay, so what's expected of you during an internship is a lot of initiative to do the right thing and get things done without waiting for someone to tell you or waiting for something to happen. It's also good to think about what you want out of your internship so that we can tailor tasks and projects during the internship. And what you will get from it is that everyone will be assigned to a full-time designer who will be mentored, who will mentor them throughout the internship. So it's most likely that you will work on the same product as your mentor, and you will have weekly one-on-ones to discuss your performance, your progression, your areas to improve on. And depending on your internship goals, you also have opportunities to work on different parts of the design process. Okay, so I think this is a really popular question. So conversion is generally dependent on headcount and what skills our design team needs at that point in time. But I think to be on the safe side, you can just assume that no conversion will not be offered at this point. But even if there's no conversion, we still want our interns to succeed. So what we can do is a portfolio review towards the end of the internship. And throughout the internship, we will still provide periodic performance check-ins, and we'll collate feedback from everyone that you've worked with at the end of the internship. Okay, so we take on interns generally during summer, but sometimes throughout the year as well. And we are only able to take on full-time interns because the commitment is quite intensive, and we need at least 3 months. 4 to 6 months will be better. But all this, of course, it depends on the bandwidth of your mentor, if there are enough people to take on interns. So apart from our full-time hires, we are also hiring 2 design interns. So 2 of our designers, Belle and Tingy, they are both looking for interns to work with them in the coming months. So if you're interested, just scan the QR code and we will drop the link in the chat as well.
All right. Thank you, Pearly. Very nice, insightful stuff. I hope this has gotten you curious and wanting to apply. So have you been sending in your questions? Because now we'll be taking questions from the floor. So let's get some of your burning questions answered. So let's take the first question. What's the pay like for product design and marketing? Before we hand this off to the full-timers, I want to say that marketing, there will be a session tomorrow for that. So do stay tuned tomorrow for that. As for product design, maybe one of the full-timers can take that question. Maybe Natalie?
Well, we do treat our interns pretty well, and we do know that we are, I think, above average for our intern hires. But I think the intern pay is around is above 2K usually. Yeah. So for all of our interns, we all treat our interns pretty nicely. It's about 2 to 2.5K, I believe.
Nice, very nice. Okay, next one. Is there anything that you wish you knew before starting the internship? Maybe Stacey, you can take that question.
Okay, so something that I wish I knew before starting the internship was more more so like the technical stuff of design. So in OGP, I was exposed to design systems and something called design tokens. So actually it was I didn't know about design tokens at all before I started the internship. So actually like reading up about all these like technical design stuff would really help. So like when you enter into an internship, you can like contribute 100% into it. Like you can, yeah, like you can actually contribute it, and like you don't spend the time actually like learning about it. So you can just, it's just more fulfilling that way. Yeah. When you can actually like contribute stuff to the design system. Yeah.
Okay, nice answer. All right, next question. What was the defining moment in your internship period which really made you think that OGP's internship program was very good and something that you thoroughly enjoyed? Audrey?
I think like from when we onboarded, it was a really smooth process, and how they gave us like autonomy of the work, like how we have ownership over what we do over here. I think it was I just realized it really early on when like how I work with Nat. She doesn't just assign me work, we would split the work together and then discuss together, working like peers. So I think that was the key defining moment for me. Yeah, that made me think that this internship program is really good for growth, especially. Yeah, and I enjoy every part of the process now.
Thank you, Audrey, for the answer. Okay, next question. How does OGP test UI/branding with users aside from usability issues from user interviews? Stacey, I'm gonna take this.
Okay, so what we do here at OGP is actually before we actually develop our products, we usually concept test them with users. So something that I relate to my own like personal experience on the ScamShield team. So the scam tracker that we are releasing, actually, I went through a round of the user concept testing with users, where like they gave feedback about the UI and even about like the logo of ScamShield as well. So that's like the main avenue that we test UI and branding with users. Yeah, it's mostly UI lah, like branding not really. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Could you share a time where you faced some challenges in your project and how your mentor provided assistance to help you through it? So Audrey, you might want to take this question.
Wow. Give me a second to think.
Yeah, sure.
I think there wasn't any particular instance, but I think it's something like I think I felt like it was quite difficult to communicate with engineers, especially when I first started. So yeah, I just had a lot of help from Nat regarding that, especially because one of our first tasks was to hand off some screen designs to the engineers, and I wasn't very sure how to go about it. So yeah, with her help, and then like I had a lot of questions to ask her lah. So she was very proactive in trying to guide me as well, to assist me in that process, explaining all the different steps to me. Yeah, so yeah, we managed to get through that phase, and then yeah, from there I learned, and then right now we are also trying to hand off some screens to our engineers, and yeah, so that process is quite like solidified in my mind already lah. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Audrey. So what is the most unexpected thing you have learned during your internship? Stacey, maybe you want to take this.
Okay. Okay, so one of the things that I've learned is actually, okay, very unexpected would be relating to visual design more than product design. So that was actually one of my struggles is actually visual design. So actually like learning how to like get out of the rut, like, so after designing something, then like I don't know how to go on from there anymore. But when I see like when I ask my teammates, like those trained in graphic design, right, to help me, right, then I see how they work, then like then when I try the same way, then it sort of got me out of my creative rut lah. Like I was able to explore a lot more and like create a lot more like explorations that actually work instead of just like being stuck there. So that was one of the unexpected things. Yeah.
Thank you, Stacey, for your answer. Next question. Any tips on curating a portfolio for the internship application? Audrey?
I think you could probably do some personal projects on topics that you're interested in. So that kind of like showcases your personality, your interests, and also like your character. So when you apply to jobs, if they like your work, they would be able to know more about you also in that selection process. Yeah, so I think just selecting some projects that you are interested in, not just doing it for the sake of doing. So because like when you present to them during an interview, it really shows how like passionate you are about that topic. And then it also shows your knowledge as well in that topic. Yeah, so that would be like a good route to go.
Stacey, do you have anything to add for this? Any tips on creating the portfolio?
Yeah, okay. For me, I like to pick projects that I like to pick like one personal project. Like so a lot of my projects are actually like from my mods that I taken in school. So like I'll pick one where I did like an extension of, so like one where I explored like the UI of all the screens so that I can showcase to the interviewers that I take initiative in like extending my project, and like I actually practice on my own accord. Yeah, and actually knowing like a lot about the project actually like really helps. It will make like the whole deep diving into your portfolio a lot easier when you know like the project like the back of your hand. Yeah.
Thank you for your answer. Okay, next one. What platforms or methods do you use to recruit participants for testings or interviews locally? Maybe Natalie or Pearly can take this question. Pearly?
Yeah, sure. So right now, I guess it's a bit organic. It's mostly from like friends, family, acquaintances, and like our immediate network. But maybe Nat can also talk a bit about this research program that she helped to set up to recruit participants.
Yeah, so actually, can you hear me? Yeah, so actually we've started this pool of users that we call the OGP Open Geo program. So basically, we've been sending out signups to the program into the pool through like our FormSG forms, and basically through that pool of users, we ask like several questions in terms of like all the different details about them, and we use that pool actually to reach out to people. So if you want to specify, for example, right, and I think recently for like Stacey and Pearly, when they were doing their ScamShield research, we were able to pull out users who use an Android phone specifically through that pool and message those users directly so that we could target that user group that they wanted to test with. Yeah, so usually we use that OGP OpenGeo data pool, and in tandem with that, we also have like Telegram group, which is kind of like a subset of the pool where we try to engage with our people using smaller short form Telegram polls as well. Yeah, so those are just some of the methods that we use. Yeah, so we're trying to formalize the process a little bit more.
Thank you, Pearly and Natalie, for your answer. Okay, we'll take the next one. What is the difference between designing for OGP versus GovTech? Pearly, maybe you can take this question.
Yeah, so I guess the difference between OGP and GovTech is that so a GovTech is obviously like a very large organization, right? And OGP is much more experimental in nature. So the products that we design for actually like mostly come from the ground up. So things that we think of during our hackathon. Yeah, so it's things that we actually like very much believe in, and things that we believe will help the public good. So I think like one very important thing is that if you see things like problems in the public space and you want to be solving them, I guess like OGP is kind of the right place to be doing that, because every year like during our hackathon we will like pause all core work and like try and get together to think of like problem statements and things that we want to solve and prototype something during that 1 month.
Thank you, Pearly, for your answer. Okay, we'll answer this one. Would you recommend someone with passion in both illustration, type design, and coding to pursue this path? Maybe you can get one of the interns. Maybe Audrey, you can answer this.
I would think so. Illustration type design and coding. Yeah, I think we as product designers here, we do a lot of everything. Yeah, so like illustration, sometimes we do as well. And then it's good to also have like coding background in this field, because like you would be more well-versed in the technical aspects of things. Yeah, so it's definitely a good path to pursue, I would believe, if you have interest in all this, because you definitely interface with this different aspects.
Yeah, just to add on, I think like any bonus skills that are related to design are always very helpful. Whether it's illustration, animation, like coding, I think any of those.
Okay, next one. What exactly do you need to look out for or implement to ensure that your UI design is scalable? Maybe Stacey can take this one.
Okay, so
I guess like maybe, sorry.
yeah, you can go ahead, buddy.
Okay, yeah, I was just thinking that since we worked on the design system, this might be the right place to answer this. So I was thinking that probably it all starts from the design systems, like making sure that your colors, your type scale, and all your components are set up correctly, and that way, like yeah, your design, your UI design can be more scalable.
Maybe also just to add on from this, because I think this question came from Audrey when she was talking about like her work on Isomer, right? So I think one thing that we were working very closely with our engineers on was making sure that like there were very repeatable patterns all throughout the interface at all at different points, so that the engineers, it makes it easier for the engineers to implement because they know already existing behaviors. They don't have to keep recreating states of like different buttons. As long as the buttons are the same, they can always use the same button, for example. Or even just in terms of like patterns of like screen layouts, keeping a consistent layout also helped the engineers basically just implement the UI faster, so that they didn't have to worry too much about like trying to like look too closely into like certain things and work out like how do I make this like box expand or like be responsive, etc. If it was more consistent and repeated throughout the interface, it was easier for the engineers to implement.
Okay, fantastic answer. Thank you both so much. Okay, that was the last question. So with that, that's the end of this year's Intern Sharing Day for Product Design. We've dished the inside scoop. So I hope you've learned a lot from this session. Thank you for your questions. And if you have any more, here's how you can contact us. For all those here who have already followed us on Instagram, we will contact the 30 lucky t-shirt winners shortly. So do stay tuned on our social media. So we don't bite, of course, but if you're feeling too shy to contact us directly, then by all means, connect with today's intern speakers on LinkedIn. We'll be conducting one more session tomorrow about non-tech roles like marketing, people and culture, and partnerships. So if you or anyone you know may be interested, do register for it too. We want to hear what you think, so it would be awesome if you could take just a minute to scan this QR code and leave us some feedback about what you think. We'll leave the link in the chat. This will help us improve on how we bring events like these to you. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you. Bye-bye.